Well, folks, 2 days in a row, I'm making videos with someone else. This time, someone you haven't seen for what's it been, about a month, I think, Aristo.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, or at least a month. And
Well, late
anyway,
November, mid-November, yeah, 1 month, maybe more.
yeah, he's back, and he's going to be talking to us about how to create your own reality. Wouldn't we like to be able to do that?
Wouldn't we too? No, this isn't what you might expect. Snap your fingers, poof, reality creation. Because like many New Age terms, it's a misunderstanding. People, I don't know, whoever came up with these terms, they really didn't think it through. Or maybe they didn't want it to be thought through because, look, the people automatically will turn and go, oh, reality creation, I can create it from scratch, ex nihilo, nihilo, whatever, from nothing. And, like God or something.
And they don't take into consideration the collective consciousness at all.
Well, there's this, you see, reality creation is a misnomer, in my opinion. Now, you can say reality hosted. Now, these ideas, you see, I've noticed in my own research is that a lot of directions, a lot of people, they come up with similar things, similar ways of doing this, especially after the utter failure of what you might call the secret, which is if you affirm something or try to create your own reality through talking to yourself about it, or intending it simply through force of will, it's going to happen, and then persistence and fake it till you make it, and all of these things. It's like there's an understanding that, yes, reality is a result of us. We are the center of our experience, and we are not just passive experiencers. We're not just sitting there being bombarded by random events over which we have no control. That is the phenomenon. We have brought ourselves to a position where we seem to have no control. Now, the thing is, different people, different authors, different speculators, practitioners, you might say, they come up with different reasons why these methods work. So there's a book called, for example, Ending the Busting Through the Money Game, something like that. And I know I should have done research and gotten everything,
That's okay.
But I'm not plugging in things, you can just do the words and you'll find it. In any case, in this book, the author essentially puts forth how to create your own reality in terms of money. Because he says, okay, I was a very wealthy person and blah, blah, blah. And then I lost everything and then I made everything again until I realized that the money game is crap. The game of work hard or do whatever you need to do, or by hook or by crook, make money, hold money, save money, maneuver, strategize, keep money, money. And he said, that's bullshit.
It's a rigged system.
It's not just a rigged system. The very mindset is, it's a certain mentality of limitation. Basically, in his view, we are all one, everything's an illusion, and because of that, what the higher self or the one consciousness does is split itself up into many, or basically from your perspective, there's only you. And everybody is a creation of you. Everything you experience is a creation of you. But there's a paradox involved that everybody else thinks you're a creation of them, sees you. So don't even try to resolve it, he says. Forget it. Just, this is the way it is. And so up until a certain point, what you're doing is exploring limitation. So you make things worse and worse for yourself, more limited, and play by certain rules that lots of psychologies, lots of metaphysics are the same rules of limitation. I don't know, realism, logic, this and that. Whereas the true self is unlimited. So at some point you hit rock bottom or you hit a point and then you go, okay, it's time to go back to being unlimited again. And on the way back, you discover all these ways how to create your own reality, blah, blah, blah. Now, I disagree with that premise, or the explanation. Sometimes what we can say is that things are as if we are the only ones, really, because I really, even when I empathize with another, I'm not that person, I'm not that center. I'm resonating or absorbing or reflecting, what that person is through my own center. I can be fairly accurate, very good and all of this, and connect, and I can even project into that center in a way, but it's still a projection. There are yogic methods, for example, according to legend, that, yogis can get into a trance. They'll be like a death state. And then they get out of their body and into the body of another person who is just dead. There's stories of people who, like, just at the moment of death, they can enter and reanimate that person, or when they're really weak, or take over temporarily and just be there and, be them and live their lives. And then while their body's somewhere else, beaming out the consciousness and stuff. So the issue is iffy. And a lot of us, seem to be obsessed, and, I can understand that. With, now, why does it work? How does it work? I want to know what the premise behind it, what is it, this and that. It's like, well, sometimes it's enough to just experience it and figure out later, make up your own story, see, observe, that takes time. However, and then there are other viewpoints, for example, that say it's different. We do have a higher self, we are different people, but we don't create reality so much. Reality is more like the building blocks of a house. Bricks exist, timber exists, cement exists. We're the ones that put it together. So we host reality. We design how things come together. There are flows, probabilities. Yes, you were going to say something?
Yeah, well, our response is something that we do create. We choose how we're going to respond.
Yes, that is the logic of it. But a response is basically fight or flight, or resist or capitulate, or, try. How do you change what's going on and make it go into your favor? If you can't do that, then your responses were shit. Really. I mean, if you can't change the circumstance through your response, because something's coming to kill you, so you respond, oh no, or I'm standing my ground bravely. But if it doesn't amount to shit, what's the point? So yes, the response is important, but it's important because it gets a result. And the fact is, if you can get a result without your response, then it would be meaningless, because it wouldn't be your response. Response and results are tied together. They're one and the same. They're interweaved. However, when a response gets no results, then it's basically a matter of biding your time until you're still powerless. Okay. The whole point is we are conditioned to appear powerless. The question is, are we powerless? So instead of saying, okay, reality creation is a concept that we think is like an artist has a blank board and they put everything on it, or that somebody just defines everything or puts it all together out of nothing. Yeah, but the thing is, reality is created, but so are you. You create yourself. You create yourself and the reality around you. So who is you? And that's where things get iffy, because people say it's consciousness. Consciousness exists in a field. Now, the field, however, is not some inert thing. It's a living essence. So you have basically awareness, and then you have the response to awareness that creates reality, substantiality. The female that responds and gives birth, and the male that fertilizes. Okay, so everything is a combination of these two things, in my opinion, my view. So a better way, and some healers out there, some therapists, metaphysicians, there's a site called healingtowholeness.com, for example, that use the word hosting. You host your reality. You basically are like somebody who owns an inn or a hotel, and then your guests, everybody in your life is like a guest. And you say, okay, I invite you, and I invite you, I invite this event, I invite that event, consciously, subconsciously, or whatever. Now, the thing is, why do bad things happen? Well, bad things happen. Before a bad thing happens, it's like a weather front. You have signs that it's going to happen. There are signs and portents. If we can read the signs, we can actually not necessarily prevent a bad thing all the time, depending, but we can take some action. Then we can respond to it in a way that changes the scenario. So what happens is that our deeper self has an instinct. There's an instinctive level to the higher self. And that instinctive level says, okay, I am tired of exploring for 10 lifetimes ago. I'm tired of exploring limitation. I never wanted to explore limitation. I just wanted to use limitation to create greater unlimitedness. Limitation is just a reference dynamic. It's the paradox. I mean, oh, I'm just unlimited. That's all there is. So there's nothing to compare with anything else. But if you have limitation, you have reference points, you have this versus that and the other, a whole bunch of relationships can happen that could never happen before. So let's put it that way. So then what happens is, at some point you go, well, I'm tired of suffering, and let's turn it back. So how do you do that? Well, every event that holds limitation, that holds suffering, that holds trauma, not just in your psychology, but in your greater field of being, because whatever you might say, okay, so we say, okay, I'm not the only one, that's, or one versus many, or one consciousness versus many, or we're all one. What you can say is that your being extends beyond this corporeal form. So, and it touches the world beyond how this corporeal form touches the world, you know. And so in other dimensional levels, for example, your trauma affects reality and is held in pockets. And these pockets are, you know, they're your power. But the pockets are screwed. They're trauma patterns. They're distorted. They're imploding. And you don't want to face them because they hurt. So you push them away so you can recover. And then say, okay, just leave them over there. And they're sitting there buzzing and resonating with all these other beings as well who are resonating with the same dynamic of trauma. And reality can't change as long as these are here, because they are now creating the nasty shit that we don't like. They're sitting here buzzing with power, manifesting, a repetition of the original trauma in all kinds of combinations, interacting with each other, interacting with other people, you know. So these are like, that one author with the money game calls them eggs, like Easter eggs, you know, or bombs, you might say, or time bombs, or, you know, just big presences of nasty energy that is the field compressed in a knot, like a knot in your muscle, that's hurt. So it is a living thing in essence, but we haven't identified with it. So when you go through life and all of a sudden you feel bad, or something tries to make you scared or angry, or in a way that you feel negative and uncomfortable, what's really going on in a higher dimensional level is that your soul, moving through time, is encountering one of these eggs, one of these presences, and you're coming close into its orbit and buzzing with the discomfort. And if you keep trying to ignore it, what it wants to do is say, okay, I belong to you because you're hurt and it's hurt. I belong to you. So who's going to claim me? I'm an orphan here. I'm hurt, you know. So the thing is, we are designed from a higher self level down to the corporeal level to digest these things. We're designed to absorb
them. We have the capability, but we don't know that we do.
Exactly. And transformation, you might say, what the hell does that mean? Well, you can liken it to a process of digestion. Basically, what you do is you break it down through feeling it deeply in the body. The corporeal body is there in order to be able to, because if you're just an energy form equivalent to that energy form, if it's big, it's going to dissolve you, you know, or it's going to throw you for a loop, or it's going to throw you off into its orbit where you're going to fall into some other incarnational zone, or who knows. In essence, the teaching that is false, in my opinion, is that we reincarnate because we're trapped in a prison planet. No, that's wrong. It's the opposite. We reincarnate to get away from the energy levels where we can't do squat because we're too rarefied. Okay, we reincarnate because so we can grab a hold of physicality where we have the tools and the means to make a difference. That's why the soul reincarnates. It goes, enough. How do I get out of this? How do I get through this? You need a body. Oh, okay. So a conduit opens and it's almost automatic. There is no trap. Who is the one who's telling us these things? Who are those who are telling us? We've often said, and many people often say, you need to question everything. Everything. And the things that you hold most true might be the traps that are keeping you bound. So, but the thing is, you don't know which of these things, because if you're going to release old beliefs, you need to release them in their proper order. Because if you end up going to a core belief and releasing it for no reason other than to release it, you'll end up with no foundation to stand upon, and all of the other falsehoods are going to just toxify you. It's like going through doing a detox, so people who go through fasting, for example, the body releases toxins. If you don't purge the toxins, they're going to kill you. They're going to make you sick at the very least. I mean, you release them from the tissues, so now they're going all over the place, poisoning your whole body. You need to purge them out, cleanse them. So those people who do fasting also do a cleanse. They do a cleanse, external enemas, this, that, purgings, and also liver cleanses, kidney cleanses, etc. So you need to be able to deal with this thing. It's not just enough to go into the negativity, so to speak. Negativity, why is it called negative? Because it denies existence. It's a denial of the truth of existence. Existence is a wonderful thing. It's a loving, wonderful thing. So all of these negative zones basically deny that. They reverse it. They say existence sucks, it's all terrible, it's painful, it's contraction. Pain is contraction. But at the same time, some contraction is a good thing when in proper proportion. You can't just expand and expand and expand. You need to be able to vibrate the muscles, hold things, power. Sexual ecstasy is about contractions. Birth is about contractions, so contractions are not all bad. When they are forced outside of your natural desire and nature and aspiration, then yes. So we're talking about freedom. And so we are in a kind of prison planet, but at the same time, are we the prisoners, or are we also those who have evolved? Or are we part of reality that is evolving in order to deal with such things? Because the ones that are in prison are those Easter eggs, those eggs, those pockets of negativity that need to be brought in, owned, and transformed. And you go, what do I get out of that? Well, you get power. You get the power to change your reality. That's what gives you the power to change your reality. If you can't change your reality, it means you don't have yourself, your aspects, your power is floating all over the place. And there are psychopaths who are the ultimate level of denial. They are the manifestations of those who don't want to face anything, and they want to make everybody else keep hurt. So they create more and more of these external manifestations that they control, enslave, feed upon, because they become parasites. Because ultimately, if you don't take responsibility, your soul will mutate in a bad direction. It's an adaptive mutation. So these are things that you might call the science of the soul, or the science of existence. And you can answer the question, well, why does God do this? Because it's a natural process. It has to be done until the souls themselves, the embodied souls, become one with the bodies and learn to use this ability to end all trauma. Because once trauma is ended, then we can get on with the business of creating paradise. Mm-hmm. But until you end trauma, you cannot create. And why was trauma there in the first place? No, it wasn't curiosity. Reality, which is wise and it can simulate things. No, what happened is that love didn't know where its own limits were. Love is not limitless. Love basically has to stop where something that doesn't want to be loved begins. Really, it's nature is basically saying, look, I don't want to exist. Love is existence. Existence is love. Both of them, being. But there are aspects of existence that are negative by nature. You couldn't have anything existing if you didn't have positive. In Kabbalah, they believe of the dark face of God and the bright face of God. The face that's luminous, and they're both spirit. We're not talking about the divine feminine here. We're talking about spirit. One radiates out, and the other one just says no. One says yes, and the other one says no. You need both to create patterns. You need both to create manifestation. You need to create a digital system of existential thing. As long as you don't fuck with the no. You don't try to turn the no into a yes. You just take no's and you blend them in with yeses and create strings of possibility and variation. Dancing together, exactly. You don't try to take, let's put it this way. So you have a dance partner and you say, oh, wow, Well, what if I want you to be a man because I'm a man and I know myself, so let's both be men. You know, some people would say, "Oh, that's cool." Yes, so it's so liberal, but no. If the nature of an individual is to be a woman, for example, trying to force them to change their gender is abusive. And you will have resentment, and you will have a whole bunch of nasty psychological outcomes. The same thing is true at the cosmic level, or you know, divine level, you might say. So one part of the divine did not, you know, understand itself so much. So the yes tries to turn everything into a yes. Let's all be loving and lighting and this and that. And, you know, but no, this other part doesn't want to. So when that happens, it's not that the other part got angry and, you know, stamped on whatever. It's just that the experience of something, to try to become one with something that you're not meant to become one with, that you're meant to dance with instead of just merging with. There's a difference between dancing and fusing. And, you know, it's like one mystic in India, Ramakrishna. Yeah, he said, I want to eat sugar. I don't want to become sugar. You know, so there's a difference between experiencing something and becoming something. Sometimes in metaphysics, there's a confusion between the two. So in any case, you know, this is just the storyline, the myth, you might say, of it. So how do you create your reality? The first step is to be receptive and open, like you say, response able. So you're going to find bad days. You're going to find bad events. But before these bad events happen, I mean, look, expect a process of return where you're going to confront a shitty situation. And if you're able to extract the negative feelings from that shitty situation, then eventually you can start turning it around. But for a time, you're going to keep experiencing negative feelings. And these negative feelings, they say that, oh, you never get more than you can handle. That's not true. If you allow yourself, you have to, you know, keep intending or keep wanting yourself to handle enough. Usually your higher self, your deeper self will say, okay, yeah, this is what you can absorb. So the second step is to be loving with yourself, to be your higher self, to be the parent of your own child, to be able to find it within yourself, to have that. Usually there's a spiritual bypass where you have the victim spiritual type that basically is open to all feelings and suffers, but doesn't know what to do about it and just stays receptive. And then you have the other type, which is luminous and love and light, and nothing ever happens to them, and they're always fine, and everything's great, and they look down upon everybody else or pity them or whatever. It's like, well, these two are useless. You need to combine the two. You need to be able to be open to all of the experiences you have, to appreciate the positive things, but be open to the negative ones, not events that harm you physically, but emotionally. So if you're going to create your reality, you need and rewrite your script. Words are just reference points. They're not what makes a difference. You don't program yourself like a computer. They carry emotion. They carry feeling. It's the feeling that changes it. That's willpower. So if you can feel, you know, in the midst of this discomfort, you know, an opening, or even if you can just know that it's there until eventually there's a glimmer of some memory of what it's like to feel grace, you might say, or to feel, I mean, you, for example, have felt grace in your life at some point. You have that. Maybe you've forgotten it, you know, but if you touch that memory, however you can touch it and cultivate it, then in these moments where the feelings go bad, even when they're trivial bad feelings, where you go, oh, why should I worry? Why should, you know, I should. No, you're feeling something. You're encountering maybe a more rarefied form of this egg or concentration of negativity that seems, oh, it's just a bad day. No, take it, you know, really notice that it's not just a bad day. You're actually fortunate that you can encounter it in that it's not so, it's not going to knock you on your ass. And at the same time, appreciate the fact that you can move to start digesting it. So before you start noticing things change in the positive, you may spend a long time transforming this power structure of loose energy. A lot of people may discover that and then they get blocked. Now, if you don't transform it, nothing's really going to happen. The world doesn't want you to transform it. But the thing is, because this is what you might call divine will, This level of dealing with shit is not going to be interfered with by the establishment. They can't. They want to, but they really are confused about it because their own fear doesn't let them accept themselves. So any process of self-acceptance that's real and not full of what they try to do is spin everything. Okay. Spin everything. So you have to question everything, but not arbitrarily. We want to be comfortable generalizing. So, well, what's the rules? How do I create my own reality? Well, 2 steps. First step, feel it. Second step, recognize that you're cool. You're okay. Everything's fine in you. Your nature is fine, not your circumstances. Your nature is sacred. Okay? You're not in a prison planet. You're not whatever. You are in a situation where you have an opportunity to choose who and what hosts. So before for an event to become physical, it needs to become metaphysical first. It needs to be emotional, mental. And if you keep denying it and repressing the emotions or just acting them out and not giving yourself some healing love or even the benefit of the doubt, then it will compress and then manifest physically. And that's what so many people want. You look at the establishment, who is occult-oriented in many ways, and they try to put us in a situation, in many situations, where we are culprits in manifesting our own demise. Where it's all our fault, our karma. Well, who told you? I didn't. So that's what I wanted to say. If you can make sense out of this, it's a very simple thing. And these 2 steps, you can see them elaborated in many types of teachings. But prayer and meditation and many things are based on these things. This is where the so-called secret tried to convey something and couldn't. Because to tell you the truth, if you don't really accept the fact that you need to open up and that it's feeling oriented and not mental oriented, you're going to sabotage yourself and the concept's going to come out wrong. So anyways, after all of this time, I thought I'd, just give a little talk on this little spiritual principle that many people seem to know about. And, if you can get something out of it, that's cool. So thank you for having me.
Well, Aristo, and you didn't even use up the time.
No. Well, when the last few minutes come, I need to wrap it up, so I don't want to.
So thank you very much. And namaste.